2 weeks ago, the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations, led by Ambassador Jose Romero, hosted a discussion and a dinner with the China Institute for International Studies. The China Institute for International Studies, CIIS, is China's premier think tank of the 700 or so think tanks. And China, of course, is the second country with the most number of think tanks. The first is, of course, the US with 1,600 think tanks. But this was a very opportune occasion for Filipino policy advisors and analysts to discuss the Philippine-China relations, and especially relations with regards to the China Sea issues, as well as joint development of the resources of the South China Sea and what the Philippine side calls the West Philippine Sea. And the primary guests were, of course, Mr. Ruan, Dr. Ruan of the CIIS, whom spoke lengthily, and this was a 2-hour discussion, so we have had to cut the presentations and views expressed by Mr. Ruan to 2 parts. The first part we showed last week, including the explanation and presentation of Ms. Zhu on the AIIB, one of the members of the delegation from the CIIS, Zhu. And now we'll present the second part of Dr. Ruan's discussion, which also touches on many issues such as joint development. And in the latter part of our 20-minute segment in this show this week, we also have Joe De Venecia, who was part of the panel and who part of the hosting of the China Institute for International Studies. First, the second significant segment runs explanations in this forum.
We need to have a mindset of advance with the time pace. That means the world has changed so dramatically. This world is not the world 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It is absolutely different. And even in Asia, today when we are talking, lots of very transformation has been going on. So we must have a kind of a mindset, whatever we're going to do and what kind of a topic we're going to discuss. It should be in the context of this very fundamental transformation. Because one of the very characteristics of today's world is unsettling, unpredictable, right? Since Donald Trump was as a good example, he's a person of unconventional, unpredictable, unsettling. One of his favorite narratives is, "You are fired." So this day we have seen him, he said, "You are fired." He fired Bannon, he fired his aides, and he fired many of his staff. Even he is very much suffer from short-handed. He still keep on firing people. I'm so delighted His Excellency Devashu mentioned about that 2 agreements, and for the first time you are working, I know from your story you are really you are working on this project. That's back in 2004, China-Philippines signed the first ever such kind of agreement. The agreement on a seismic undertaking in the agreement area in South China Sea. That was a pioneering job, pioneering work. Never before we have seen this. And of course, before, he also mentioned about back in 1988, Deng Xiaoping for first time officially proposed shelving disputes, shelving the kind of a sovereignty and joint exploration for the, and then Philippine President crossing Aquilo. That was also a very, very significant step taken by China. You know, anything concerning with the sovereignty and the territorial integrity is something very serious. Nothing is a small deal, right? Everybody is so serious about it. But Deng Xiaoping made the proposal, and Deng Xiaoping is a great guy in vision. And if we can recall, he even proposed one country, two system. At that time, to solve the Hong Kong issue, right? This is unprecedented. And there are some different views also inside, back in China about this. But now we will see what is happening is absolutely right. We solve this Hong Kong issue by peaceful means, by diplomatic talk. So Deng Xiaoping is a man of a vision. We propose this joint exploration, then followed by the action. China and the Philippines signed this agreement on the seismic undertaking in South China Sea. And also later on joined by Vietnam. It became from a bilateral agreement to a tripartite agreement. It's a remarkable progress. China, as I understand, at that time, I can recall myself, I was already working in this institute. China is very much committed to proceed or to move on, because really we don't know what will going to happen, right? So we will say, as we move on, we will see if there is anything we can do better. Of course, these two agreements was short-lived, very unfortunate. It has been abandoned in de facto or aborted. Then later on, we have seen the kind of a color-roster relationship. Ever since last year's the arbitration and so, all this stuff. Now I'm so happy to see that this relationship, I mean China-Philippine relationship, have been reset, totally reset, thanks to the joint effort of both leadership. Duterte, he is a man of vision. I fully agree, and also with Xi Jinping and his very good, successful visit to China, and reset the relationship. Now give us opportunity. Now give us a conditionality to think what we're going to do about this South China Sea. I think I will make two observations very briefly. One is we should look at, I agree, we should look at China-Philippine relationship in the larger context, in the regional context as well as the global context. It is not just a bilateral issue. So what happened between China and Philippines will have a spillover effect, like Kyoto lot. If you do it right, it will have a very good example for others, and if you do it wrong or otherwise, it will be very bad. It will hurt the bilateral and also hurt the stability of the region. I absolutely agree. So, number one, I think now, since this world is very unsettling, and the outlook of the world economy is unsettling as well, China has been in a kind of growing for a couple of decades already. However, you can see China's economy is a little slowed down for the first time in decades to below the 7%. Last year, China's economic growth is 6.9%. And it's really good to see the Philippines' previous two quarters economic growth is 6.5%. Right? So it's pretty encouraging. Even 6.9%, China, we must have a certain growth so that you can generate enough job opportunity for domestic reasons. So economic growth is not just the number, data. It is about social stability, about everything. Then, on the other hand, you have seen the protectionism, the growing protectionism. This protectionism basically comes from the West, comes from Europe, comes from the United States, Washington, and very recently, Donald Trump signed ordered it will pursue to make a investigation on China and trade, right? It will risk a trade war between China and the United States. So these are just some of the protectionist move, protectionist. So China and other developing countries, we should work together to fence off those protectionists. Then that means China and the Philippines must work together, must work. We have no alternative. It's not an option. We have to. There's only one way for us to work together to help each other. So this is why China proposed the Belt and Road Initiative. It provides a new platform, new opportunities, and for China, Philippines, and other ASEAN countries to work together. Then this is one thing we need to strengthen the cooperation. On the other hand, we should smartly manage the dispute, the South China Sea, for example. This is the only hurdle, biggest hurdle between China and the Philippines. Now, not long ago, the two governmental officials that discussed the joint exploration. My understanding, I'm not here to represent the Chinese official or government. I'm a scholar now. I understand this joint exploration, if it is going on, if it must going on, we should make it very clear what does joint exploration mean, right? First of all, any kind of a joint exploration agreement or any action that should not affect, that will not going to affect respective countries' legal system of both countries. That means that joint exploration does not mean China give up its own sovereignty and territorial integrity. Vice versa, does not mean Philippines give up its own sovereignty or territorial integrity. Just because we can't solve this problem at this moment, but we need to, for the purpose of benefit people, to benefit from, to take advantage of joint operation for the resources, the oil and gas and many other resources, how to make it to benefit the people. So we should move on this. Second, I think it's also important to understand this must be pursued by both countries. Any unilateral action will be negative or counter effect. It's not going to work. Should China take a unilateral action there or Philippines take a unilateral action there? It's not going to work. So the two must consult to each other, talk to each other, make an agreement with each other, then moving on, then move on. The third is the purpose of this joint exploration is how to make the resources, the development dividend to benefit people, two people from China and the Philippines, from China. So in the whole process, joint is the key word. Joint, not a unilateral. It must be bilateral or must be based on our agreement. So I think these ideas should be further pursued. I don't mean say we will, since we say, oh, there is a possibility scenario of a joint exploration, everything will be okay. In the future, since we don't know what will happen, because we never see this before, we never do this before. So there must be some challenges and also difficult or some problem emerge in the process. During the process, the principle should also apply joint consultation and a joint effort. Every step, every action must be made by China and the Philippines through a consultation, through a friendly talk. So I'm somewhat optimistic about this. I think there is also a time pressure for both China and the Philippines. I understand Duterte, he's also like to see the outcome, some result, and for China too. China this year, we will have very soon, we will have a 90th Party's Congress, which is a big deal for China. And so it will work out the roadmap for the next at least 5 years. So we have our time pressure as well. So I think now it is really an opportunity for the first time in decades. The two sides has a meaningful discussion. How can we proceed this joint exploration and make it a benefit to the two people?
Okay, and so you heard Dr. Ruan in a very comprehensive presentation, both historical and very current, stressing on the benefit to the people, but of course also stressing that every step of the way towards joint activities and joint development, joint exploration, every step of the way should be based on bilateral consultation. And what is the Philippines' response? Well, one of the responses that was expressed at the China Institute for International Studies dinner and discussion hosted by the Philippine Council for Foreign Affairs under the leadership of Ambassador Joe Romero, former Ambassador Joe Romero, is from one of the pioneers too in the dialogues with China and the project for joint exploration and development. And this is former Speaker of the House, Joe De Venecia, who joined the event between the CIIS and the PCFR to recount his experience in the first ever joint project between China and the Philippines, the Joint Marine Seismic Undertaking, JMSU, or the joint agreement to explore and map the underwater or marine resources of the common areas of China, the Philippines, and Vietnam, setting aside the territorial disputes. And so let's listen to the Venerable Joe De Venecia, who came out of his retirement to discuss this with the CIIS and the members of the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations. So we'll leave you with Joe De Venecia.
Because China is our closest neighbor, and we should inaugurate some new initiatives with the Chinese government. Since we in the International Conference of Asian Political Parties would welcome our second biannual meeting in Beijing, we agreed to have our meeting in Beijing. And in Beijing, we sat down with President Hu Jintao, and President Roy and I proposed a joint seismic agreement between China and the Philippines. And I drafted the agreement because I was an oil man at that time. And we showed it to Xi Jinping and he agreed and they signed the agreement up to Uchentang. And when we were leaving Beijing, I said to President Xi Jinping and President Macapagal-Arroyo, and you can check this with your President Hu Jintao. I said, Mr. President, I think Vietnam will be unhappy with our agreement. Why not we include Vietnam? And he looked at President Arroyo, and President Arroyo looked at him, they looked at me, and she said, why not? So the two of them deputized me to go to Vietnam the following day. We returned to Manila. I flew to Vietnam the following day, and since the Speaker of the Parliament of Vietnam was my good friend, I made the proposal to him. That day, they agreed. 1 week after, the Vietnamese government agreed, and 1 week after, Vietnam signed. So in 2 weeks, we had a tripartite seismic agreement in the South China Sea, signed by the government of China, signed by the government of the Philippines, signed by the government of the Philippines. Sir, I would like to propose that on the occasion of your historic visit, invited by our chairman, please remind your government to reactivate this agreement. Because this agreement was not severe. This agreement was not terminated. This agreement still exists. So why trading goes across the South China Sea when we have an agreement already signed and sealed by the three? This is my message to you in your historic visit to Manila. Historic, I said, because with your visit, our president and our group have decided to build our own building and move into a new headquarters. And we'll do our first